Hello, welcome everyone. I'm excited to introduce to you today to Triangulo APreciado for AP and Advanced Proficiency Classrooms, and to take you on a brief tour of this special new program. My name is Michelle Ola, and I've been a world languages educator in Florida for over 16 years. I started out my career teaching middle school Spanish, and I've had a variety of other positions since then. I've taught high school Spanish online, and most recently was a curriculum specialist at a district office where I was able to coach teachers on how to grow their understanding of highly effective teaching and learning practices for world languages. I am now excited to say that I am an instructional strategist here with Wayside Publishing. These are my goals for you by the end of this presentation. I hope that you will be able to describe how Triangulo APreciado and its resources are organized in order to support both teachers and students, and be able to explain how the online learning site leverages technology to engage students, facilitate feedback, and promote student self-assessment. So let's go ahead and get started. First, let's look at how Triangulo APreciado aligns to our profession's standards. It is possible to teach for both proficiency and the AP exam. Over time, the AP exam has evolved to be more aligned with proficiency, and Triangulo APreciado is ahead of the curve on this front. It's a complete resource that is fully focused on standards. It's proficiency driven, and it moves learners towards pre-advanced levels of proficiency as they develop their skills in the three modes of communication. This focus on advancing proficiency supports not only those students preparing for the AP exam, but also learners who are on their path to earn the seal of biliteracy, which is offered in 36 states and Washington, D.C. So what exactly is it that makes Triangulo APreciado different from other versions? Let's look inside and see some of the resources that I think are so powerful for teaching AP. The first difference that you may notice is that each of the 5 chapters fully develops the particular concept that it addresses. Students progress through the topic, moving from personal connections to community impact to global intercultural perspectives. Unit goals reflect this approach by building on communicative skills within the context of the theme. The themes are also ones that will definitely spark students' interests. In addition to the unit goals, the other learning targets are introduced at the beginning of the chapter. The preguntas esenciales set the tone for each of the 3 conexiones. The conexiones are what moves students from personal to intercultural perspectives throughout the unit. A list of AP themes and sub-themes support an integrated approach to each topic. This allows the learning experience to be much more logical and natural and organic, and not just an artificial context only to practice for an AP exam. You will also see the Mi Progreso Comunicativo can-do statements, which focus on what learners will be able to do in the language. And the Mi Progreso Intercultural, which focuses on interculturality in alignment with the newly revised Necessful Actful Can-Do statements. The 3 conexiones in each chapter are what tie the chapter together and provide a consistent structure. To begin, a particular aspect of one of the 3 preguntas esenciales is highlighted with the title of each conexión. There are 3 main sections of each conexión, which are indicated by the orange font. They are ¿Qué sabes?, ¿Qué más necesitas saber?, and ¿Qué aprendiste?. Notice that these are similar to what students are used to working with on a KWL chart. So first we're going to look at the ¿Qué sabes?, or what do you know? So vocabulary is introduced in several ways in Triangulo APreciado. First, we have 10 words that will assist learners in these initial discussions. Vocabulary is introduced with Spanish definitions, and additional practice is provided in the Explorer course on the Learning site. I'm going to show you one of my favorite features of the Learning site in a little bit that will give students wonderful practice and feedback on their vocabulary. Within each section, there are a variety of interpretive, interpersonal, and presentational tasks to prompt learner discussion around the essential question. Note that some of these activities mimic those that learners will encounter on the AP exam, such as this simulated conversation. This is another one of my favorite features that is available in Explorer course on the Learning site that I'm going to show you. You still have the icons to guide you and the learners in knowing what type of task to expect and if the resources appear in the Explorer course, but there's also a new icon, the AP icon, to let you know that this task provides that additional AP exam practice. In the next section of the Conexión, called ¿Qué más necesitas saber?, we introduce additional vocabulary as we expand the learner's knowledge about the topic. Students will practice the vocabulary in the text and online in the Explorer course that comes from authentic resources. I also want to point out that Triangulo APreciado also presents learners with strategies for improving their language learning. Don't skip these. Have learners engage in these strategies as appropriate. Within each conexión, there is a section called Aprecias la cultura hispanohablante, which further focuses on the topic from an intercultural perspective. In this example, we'll take a look at the importance of la mochila to the Arhuaco indigenous population in northern Colombia. Remember that text can also be audio or video, and in this particular activity, learners are provided with the opportunity to hone in their listening skills. The last section of the Conexión is called ¿Qué aprendiste? Here, students show what they know and understand from the resource. In this case, students answer questions about the audio selection they heard. The questions are designed to prepare students for the AP exam as they're predominantly assessing the interpretive mode. Practice with these questions provides students experience with these question types. Next, learners will practice their oral presentation skills in the Presenta section, where learners will access a focusing text and prepare a presentation based on the information and their understanding of the text. The Conexión ends with atando cabos sueltos, or tying up loose ends. And in this case, learners engage in a simulated conversation and update their progress in realizing the can-do statements with the Mi Progreso Comunicativo. After all three conexiones, each chapter presents some grammar concept in context, one that learners at this proficiency level still need to review. Language structures are introduced and practiced in a discovery co-constructivist approach with guidance provided by the text and in contextual practice on the Learning site. The chapter concludes with a full integrated performance assessment, an IPA. This is the student's opportunity to show what they know. If students have experienced Entre Culturas 1 through 3, they will be very familiar with this type of assessment. And as a teacher, you don't have to spend hours creating IPAs and rubrics to assess them. The IPA begins with a prompt or introduction and a review of the 3 essential questions. In this IPA, learners will present a picture of a young lady from Peru based on the various mochilas that she has had over the years. The interpretive task is to observe the context of the mochila and take notes to start to shape the narrative of who she is. In the interpersonal task, learners have the opportunity to share ideas with classmates in Spanish. And in the presentational task, they will give an oral presentation on who the young lady is. Note that a chapter or a summary of each conexión is provided to remind the learners of what they have discussed throughout the chapter. And of course, the resources for the IPA are provided on the Learning site. Triangulo APreciado supports language proficiency for students, but it also supports you in teaching for proficiency. Teachers don't have to figure out and create everything from scratch. Unit goals, essential questions, can-do statements for both communicative and intercultural targets have already been designed for you. And as I mentioned, you don't have to create integrated performance assessments and rubrics from scratch. You can be confident that the performance rubrics align to the AP exam for summative IPAs. And you'll also find there are wonderful suggestions and tips that can be found in the Instructional Strategies Appendix at the end of the Teacher's Edition, as well as helpful suggestions embedded within the chapters of the Teacher Edition of the Flex text. And finally, there are multiple practice opportunities for each section of the AP exam. But the great part is that the practice is aligned with the unit themes and sub-themes and not practice that is out of context. And while it's fantastic that Triangulo APreciado has so many great features to make teaching it easy, our goal for Triangulo APreciado is that it will lead to increased language proficiency in students. We do this through extensive vocabulary practice with many interactive explorer-only activities, one language structure or grammar focus per chapter using the co-constructive approach with examples and scaffolded practice in context, including some explorer-only quizzes, scaffolded communicative activities allowing students to advance their proficiency in all modes of communication, in contrast to previous editions or other resources which may have primarily consisted of AP exam tasks and strategies more than overall proficiency. But we also want to make it easy for students by including AP exam materials, instruction, scoring guide, and test-taking strategies right in their textbook. So students don't need to go out to the AP Central website to search and access this information. And finally, students have an online language portfolio where they can reflect on their progress in the language and add evidence that supports their self-reflection. As I've mentioned, the learning site several times, and now I'm going to show you how easy the site is for students and teachers. So let's get started. If you have an account on the learning site, please feel free to go and follow along with us as we walk through the various components. To access the Triangulo APreciado learning site, go to learningsite.waysidepublishing.com. Well, there are many wonderful components to the Wayside learning site that we could look at. I want to point out several features that will get you excited to jump right in and explore all that the learning site has to offer. We're going to briefly look at the Flex text, the Content tab, and the Online Language Portfolio today. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, we're going to access the Triangulo APreciado Explorer course from the main dashboard. The Explorer course is up at the top, and this is where you're going to find all of your resources that you're going to need to easily and effectively teach Triangulo APreciado. So you'll see on my dashboard I have many courses, but we're going to navigate to the Triangulo APreciado course and click View Course. Now, the first thing that you might notice on your dashboard is that there's a variety of tabs up here at the top and some folders here. Those are easy ways that Wayside has established for the resources to be organized. And so it keeps them in a nice filing sort of system for us. We're going to look at a few key areas. The first is going to be the Flex text. So we're going to go over here under Flex text. And when you get to the Flex text tab, you'll see both the student and the teacher editions of the textbook. So if you're going to present to a class, you may want to access the student edition without the answers. But otherwise, if you're looking for resources for yourself and how to teach the Triangulo APreciado, you're going to want to access the teacher flex text. We're going to look at the teacher flex text, but many of the same resources will be found in both. So the first thing that you may notice is that when you open up the flex text, this sent me to page 6, and that's because that was the last page or the last section that I left off on. So you don't have to remember anymore, 6th period, what class did I leave off at? The textbook, as long as you don't leave that area to go someplace else, will open back up to the same area that you left the last time you were in the flex text. Just a few things before we start about the flex text. It is going to be best if you use Google Chrome to access the product or to access the learning site. And for Apple products, you're going to want to, for the iPad and for the iPhone, you're going to want to access it through our iOS app that can be found in the App Store. Wayside builds and manages the flex text, so you can call or email Wayside directly for any help, and you can quickly and easily find out Wayside's contact information right down here at the bottom where it says need help. And when you click on that, you will get a live person if it's in between 8:30 and 4:30 Eastern time, or you can email them, or there's some helpful tutorials in this section also. So I just want to make sure to point that out if you do need help. So let's say I did leave and go and look into the introduction, and now I want to go find a page. I don't want to scroll through all the pages. There's some great icons up here to make your life easier as a teacher. And so one of these is the jump to page. So if I want to click on that, I can instantly just type in the page number if I know where to go, and it's going to bring me to that page. If I have a keyword, I can search by keyword also. Okay. The other great feature here is this right here, where you can highlight and annotate different activities and give notes to yourself, things like that. So you can also annotate the textbook, and students are able to do that also. So we're going to go ahead and look at some specific features. So we've got the easy use features right here of how to jump through. We've also, if we click this one, we'll get back to our table of contents. One of the things that you're going to want to look for immediately when you get into the flex text are these green compass icons. When you see a green compass icon, that thing means that there are more digital resources for you to access. They could be audio, video, PDFs, learning activities, which we call quizzes in our learning site, discussion forums. There's any manner of digital resources that make this textbook come alive for you and your students. So when I click on it once, you'll see here that this resource is an audio file and a video. I do not have to jump anywhere else or go and scramble and try and find a CD or a DVD. I can play the audio or the video straight from the textbook.
En casa no siempre es fácil organizarse. Las tareas se acumulan y a veces no llegamos a todo. Amazon.es lanza su tienda de alimentación y limpieza del hogar para que puedas hacer la compra ahorrando tiempo y dinero.
If I actually click on the link as opposed to just hitting the play button, it's going to jump me over to the content tab where all of this is stored, and there I'm going to have more options. So for example, let's click here on the video. Now you'll notice I'm not in the flex text anymore. I'm over here in the content tab. So once I go here, now with this video, I can download it and embed it into PowerPoint if you do not trust your internet access at your school. I can also assign this to students to watch if I want them to watch it once before they get to class, and then we watch it again together and do the activities when they're in class. There's also here at the top related items to that. So this will jump us back to the flex text and the teacher's flex text. If I just click back there, it's going to go right back where we started. Okay, so those are some options that you can look while you're looking around your flex text. So make sure you're watching out for those green icons and be able to see. So this one right here, you'll notice, is a little recording icon. So if I click on this, this is a discussion forum where students are able to interact, and they can do that by recording themselves, either audio or video recording. Other things I want to point out quick with the flex text is this introduction section. You definitely want to spend some time looking at this. This is where you're going to find a lot of valuable information, is in that introduction section and the appendices. And in these sections, you're going to find many resources to help you effectively teach both the AP content and strategies and for advancing student proficiency using Triangulo APreciado. So in that introduction, you're going to find helpful things like the scope and sequence, approaches to teaching and learning. One of the really important ones, I think, the icons legend right down here, because I know I'm not able to remember what every one of those icons look like. So you might want to take a screenshot of this and put it right by your desk so you have that handy and easy for you to look at. But there's a lot of really great resources in there. Also, down in the appendices, if we want to go down to the bottom, you'll see that there are the can-do statements are in the appendices, the AP or the IPA specific rubrics for each end of the unit assessment are in there. There's also a bunch of great AP resources, so AP exam strategies, a section talking about the exam format and instructions, and scoring guides, and some really, really helpful information for both you and for students are in that section. So make sure that you explore and check those out. They're also for each chapter, besides inside the textbook, in the notes and in the margins. If you go to the end in the appendices, you'll see some instructional strategies for each chapter that will give you some additional ideas and additional support in making sure that you're successful in teaching the Triangulo APreciado and giving you some ideas and tips of how to do that. Okay, so that is a quick overview of the flex text. The next tab that we're going to look at is the content tab, and we already briefly went into that tab. But the content tab is where all of your information is kept. That is where all the additional materials are. It's just a nice, easy file folder system. So every time you click on a folder, it's going to open up and give you more folders, and then you can go deeper and deeper. So we've got different folders. You're going to have your answer keys in here, your scripts for your audio and your video, assessment guidelines. There's a section just for teachers, solo para profesores. Obviously, the students do not have access to that one, but they do have access to graphic organizers and maps and the can-do statements and additional videos that can help support them in their language learning. Okay, so under the content tab is also where you're going to access and preview, and you can assign a variety of assignments, such as discussion forums, recordings, interpersonal conversation recordings, vocabulary practice activities, graded online learning activities, which we call quizzes. You can also assign audio and video resources and PDFs, etc. So you can do all of that through the different chapters, and as you open up the different folders, you will find a variety of activities. Okay, there are many activities that we could look at that advance students' proficiency in all three modes of communication: the interpretive, the interpersonal, and the presentational. We're not going to look at all of them. I want to highlight two particular activities that I think are particularly helpful to students in advancing their proficiency and in preparing for the AP exam. And the first one that we're going to look at is our exclusive vocabulary progression model that we have in Triangulo APreciado. So I'm going to move over here to a different tab. So the vocabulary progression is a module that is included in Triangulo APreciado Explorer course. that allows students to practice their language skills and gain proficiency by working through a progression of vocabulary activities using Bloom's taxonomy as a teaching tool. So students can self-assess their progress towards their proficiency targets. And it's a new activity that takes students from simple vocabulary activities and provides scaffolds and moves them towards more difficult, complex vocabulary activities and using that vocabulary in a context. So we're going to look at just a quick example. And this one is from Capítulo 1, Conexión 2, or actually Conexión 1. And it's in the Que Sabes folder. And the vocabulary progression modules are called, right here, Vocabulario para una mejor discusión. And I'm just going to click on that. And you can kind of see. So we've got, basically, there's a progression of 6 steps. It goes from matching the word and the pronunciation to matching sentences, more matching words, then it's fill in the blank, and then an open response. And they're going to go through these step by step. When they get to the final step, they're going to complete a language performance reflection and really look at how they did, what words they did well, what they need to still continue to practice. So those activities are a variety of reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and they do move from more simpler vocabulary activities to more difficult ones. So in this approach, it's going to provide students both with listening practice and also pronunciation practice, and they get immediate feedback on their progress. So I wanted to just show you what that feedback looks like from a student's perspective. And so we're going to log in here as a student really quick. And we're going to go down. He's going to access his AP Spanish 4 course. So we're going to view the course. And this one, we're going to look at it in, we accessed the wrong course. Let's go back there for a second. We're going to do in the second period. He's in a lot of AP courses, I guess. We're going to go to his assignments tab, and that's where we're going to find it. So here we've got Vocabulario para una mejor discusión, right, that we were just looking at. And if he's going to attempt it, he will just click on there and he'll pick up right where he left off in step 4, okay? And we're actually going to look at his results. So we're going to look at the feedback that Kevin gets when he does a vocabulary progression module. So you'll see he's given, in his reflection, he rated himself or was rated at an intermediate high. We've got personal goal vocabulary words. He made these mistakes quite often, and so those are some words that he's probably going to work on a little bit more. We'll go throughout the steps and he can see which ones he got correct, which ones he didn't and needs more support on or more help on. So he gets some immediate feedback from these modules, and he can self-assess his learning and his understanding. So this is a really great tool that's included with the Triangulo APreciado to really help students expand the vocabulary that they're going to need in order to communicate at an advanced proficiency and that they'll need for the AP exam. So we're going to go out of that and go back to our learning site. And so that was one of the activities I just wanted to share with you. The second one that I want to show you is a simulated conversation. So the simulated conversations are similar to the ones that students will experience on the AP exam. So students will start a recording, and once they hit record, they're going to be given the instructions, the directions and the context of the interpersonal conversation. And they're immediately going to be given questions or statements, and then they're going to have 20 seconds to respond in Spanish to those questions. Since these simulated conversations are available starting in Entre Culturas 1, By the time your students reach your AP class, I hope they're going to be pros at this activity. So we're going to look at that activity really quick also. So this particular simulated conversation is from Capítulo 2. So you can see the breadcrumbs here. So Capítulo 2, Conexión 1, and it's on page 57, Comunica, page 57. So in order for you as a teacher to experience what the students are going to see, I would recommend that you choose Attempt. So you're going to be able to actually take it just like the students would. So they're going to hit Start, and they've got some written instructions here first. And then you need to make sure that you scroll down so that you can see the start recording. So once the student or you hit start recording, they're going to instantly hear the directions.
Bienvenidos a Triángulo APreciado. Capítulo 2. La mochila. Conexión 1. El diseño y la identidad personal. Conversación simulada. Primero, vas a tener 1 minuto para leer la introducción y el esquema de la conversación. Después, comenzará la conversación siguiendo el esquema. Cada vez que te corresponda participar en la conversación, vas a tener 20 segundos para grabar tu respuesta. Debes participar de la manera más completa.
Okay, I'm not going to make you listen to all of that, but I really encourage you to utilize this this amazing resource. So what I just did is I stopped the recording, but students you do not want them to stop the recording. It will stop what they're doing and they'll have to redo it and re-listen to everything. So it would give them a 1-minute silence to read the context and to get used to what is going to be expected of them and to read through everything and prepare themselves. And then there will be a beep and they'll be asked a question according to the model above. And then there'll be another beep, they'll be given 20 seconds to respond. If they only use up 5 seconds of it, it's a long 15-second wait until the next question is asked. But this is amazing practice for students to be able to do in preparation for the AP exam. So that's just another one that I wanted to show you. And then you can go in as a teacher and listen to their recording and give them very targeted feedback in order to help them with this this aspect of the AP exam, essentially. Okay, so then the last one that I wanted to show you, or the last component that I want to show you, is the online language portfolio. So the online language portfolio. Students have access to their own online portfolio where they're able to reflect and self-assess on the progress they are making towards mastery of the can-do statements. They can set learning goals here. They can upload evidence of their accomplishment of each can-do statement. And the online language portfolio is just a powerful tool to assist students in becoming more autonomous and self-reflective in their language learning. It is just a great resource. So we're going to look again at Kevin. So we're going to pull up Kevin so we can see his online language portfolio. The way that students access their online portfolio is by clicking on their profile. So Kevin would click on his profile, and then in the last tab here, go to Portfolio. Now you'll notice Kevin has a whole bunch of portfolios. He's supposedly been in all of these classes. What a great, well-rounded student, right? The student will have access to all of the classes that they've previously taken. So the portfolio, if he was in Entre Culturas 1, he'll have his portfolio from his Spanish 1 class, etc. So we're going to access his Triangulo APreciado portfolio. And here you're going to see, Kevin would see all of the can-do statements. And he is able, let's just click on a can-do statement. He's able to open that up and assess himself. So he's going to choose his progress level right here. And then he can write a reflection of why he feels like that is where he's at. He can add a file. So if he did some project, if he recorded himself on his iPhone and has an audio file, but he wants to upload as evidence, He can add an audio recording of him doing, giving evidence of that can-do statement and his mastery of it. He could add a video recording. He can also add a quiz. And remember, when we say quiz, it's just an activity, a learning activity that he's done that shows his mastery of that can-do statement. So if he has a quiz or an assignment that you've done that he can show as evidence, he can just click add quiz and he could go ahead and attach that evidence of his mastery, of why he feels justified in the level of progress that he gave. And then he can go ahead and save that. Let's say he goes back at the end of the unit. He can go ahead and change his progress. If he's made some more progress on that and has another example of why the evidence of why he's at that level, he can go ahead and do that also. So that language portfolio is a very, very powerful tool that I hope you will utilize with the Triangulo APreciado also. Thank you for taking the time to learn about Triangulo APreciado today. To learn more about Triangulo APreciado, contact your account manager, or you can visit Wayside Publishing at www.waysidepublishing.com. Thank you very much.